right posture over the golf ball, getting the right, grip on the golf club. Your grip is the primary influence over the club face. So when you grip the club, the way you put your hands on the club is something you have to do really slowly, and you really take your time to do it so that you can get it right. Amateur golfers are always in a rush to get their hands on the golf club, and pros just take their time. They put one hand on, at a time, and they really take their time to get the grip, because you want to be precise with it. You can't just slap your hands on the club, and you want to try to do it the same way every single time, because to build consistency in your golf game, the first thing is you have to build consistency in your setup, and that starts, with the grip. It starts with the alignment too. There's ways that amateurs line up to the ball, and there's ways that pros line up to the ball. Amateurs kind of line up to the ball like this. They sit up there, and I saw this yesterday too. They sit up there and they get their feet in there first, then they put the club down, and they realize they're not the right distance from the ball, so then they move their feet back. Then they kind of take their first look at the target, and they realize they're not lined up there, and they start doing all this. It's amazing, because every single good golfer, every single professional golfer in the history of the game, every single one, 100%, has lined up to all their shots the same way. And yet amateurs don't do it. It's absolutely incredible. Every good golfer in the history of the game starts every single shot from back here. They all line up from back here. And they at the very least, they visualize the shot that they're going to play, or where they want the ball to start. Most of the pros, I would say, pick an intermediate target. Jack Nicklaus always picked a target just a couple feet out in front of his golf ball. Tiger does the same thing, picks an intermediate target out there. They step into the ball, and they line the bottom edge of the club face perpendicular to where they want to go. It's the easiest thing to line up. It's easier to line up one thing perpendicular to something than it is to try and line up your feet and your shoulders parallel to something. So they line up the club face first, then they visualize a line going on the front of the club and the back of the club, and then they visualize another line, which would be the second railroad track, if you will, and then they put their feet on that line. And then they look at the target, and if it doesn't quite look right, they don't start doing all this. They start over again. And they pick out that target again, and line up, and they go from there. So I always joke with all my amateur friends. I said, especially if I do a pro-am or whatever and play with the group, I said, at least let's line up like this, so at least we look like we know what we're doing. We might not do any better, but at least we look like we know what we're doing. Because there's nothing worse than hitting a good shot and having it end up in a bad place. And golf's so hard that you just can't hit good shots that don't end up where you want them to go. So one thing you never see with professional golfers is you just don't see them line up bad. Amateurs miss aim all the time, but pros don't do that, because you can't afford to have good shots turn out bad. There's not that many good shots you're going to hit, so your good ones have to turn out good. It's a hard game. It's hard for everybody.